introduce you to my friend Jim. This is Jim Beebe. Jim, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're kind of a legend around Shepherd Church. Like a lot of staff people. My wife, who's also a legend, she's here tonight.
Yeah.
And she doesn't always come, but she found out you were teaching. Jim is our guest speaker tonight. Jim, what would you call your profession? What is it that you do?
So I'm a marriage and family therapist. So I see individuals, couples, men, women, both. People are just dealing with life.
And I feel like there were some people clapping because some of you are getting your undergraduate for that. Is that what I'm feeling? Marriage and family therapist? Kind of, sort of, in that field, under the umbrella.
Good.
Jim, how long have you been in the Valley doing this?
So I've been doing this for 36 years.
Yeah, come on. All the 36-year-olds, oh, no, we don't have those here. That's right, just kidding. Oh my gosh, okay. And you do, I know you meet with a lot of individuals, like you said, but also marriage. You teach a class here, you and your wife, yes?
So my wife Jane and I teach a class called Mastering Your Marriage a couple times a year. It's an 8-week course that we teach for marrieds, pre-marrieds, people that are enjoying life, people that are struggling with life, people that this is the last class before they sign the papers, divorce papers, all that together. And with a young engaged couple right next to them. Yeah. That's our class that we teach,
I know there's a few in here that are engaged, something to go to the website, go to Shepherd Church. I think it's coming up in September.
Yeah.
Jim's been doing this with his wife for a long time, great reputation. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to stop talking, let you talk. Lord Jesus, thank you for my brother. Thank you for the decades of investment into people's lives, their mind, body, and soul. Jesus, we thank you for this space, as Monet shared earlier, that we're able to have conversations about this and these issues surrounding our mental health. God, thank you for men and women like Jim that have dedicated their lives to this. Thank you for Jim for taking time away from work and family to invest into us tonight. Spirit, would you have your way? Would you move in Jim? Jesus, would you comfort our hearts and encourage us? Put us in a posture to where our spirit would be open. So would you speak to us, Lord? I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Well, welcome you guys. Good to see you, good to be here, good to talk about this subject tonight. So how many of you came tonight, you drove a car here tonight? Okay, how many of you in your pocket or in your purse, you have an iPhone or a Galaxy or some kind of smartphone? Okay, when you go home tonight, go into your bathroom, can you turn on the faucet and can you get hot water in your bathroom? Okay, congratulations. You guys won the lottery. You are on top of the world. You're in the top 10, 15% of the world. You have more at your fingertips in your phone, in your car, in your house, and you have a bed to sleep in. You have all sorts of things in life that 80% of the world doesn't have. You guys are doing so good. You are lucky. You are the chosen. You won the lottery of life. Now, don't you just feel great every day, all the time because of that? Don't you always just never feel bad, never struggle, right? Because it's all good, right? No, you don't. You struggle, right? Even with all this stuff that we have, all these good things that we have, that you have, there's still life that we got to live, right? There's still struggles that we have to live, right? So like the song said, right? I'm not crazy, I'm just a little unwell. I know right now you can't tell, but stay a while, and maybe then you'll see a different side of me. So we're going to talk about that different side of us. We're going to talk about the side of us that knows deep inside how easy it is for us, despite all that we have, despite all that it looks like, for us to struggle with life, right? To struggle with dealing with our heart and soul and all the things that life brings to us, okay? That's not easy to do, and it's difficult to do. We know how easy it is to have things that look so cool and we get a lot of joy out of, and then a week later, it's just the old thing, right? We lose dissatisfaction, right? That life that we struggle with. And this is really appropriate that we could talk about these questions and these issues right here, right? Where else should we talk about how to live life? There's these big questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here? What's the meaning of all this? How do I find true love, right? How do I deal with myself? How do I find some love, joy, and peace in life, right? Where should we ask those questions? Here, right? So you guys are in the middle of a mental health series, right? Do you know that every time you come to church, it's a mental health series? Do you know that? Every sermon you hear, every podcast you listen to, every song you listen to, every class you're taking at school, all this is going into your brain, and it's about you trying to learn how to live your life. That's what it is. They may not call it a mental health series. They may not talk about depression directly, but they're talking about life. They're talking about how you deal with life, right? How do I deal with this thing called life? Because we all know that life is complex. Life is rich, but it's complex. It has all these different experiences, peaks and valleys, and sometimes dark caves that we get caught in. And sometimes we're out in the sun and things are great, and sometimes it's so blistering hot that we can't stand it out there, right? That sometimes we got to deal with all these varieties of life. And where do we bring all that stuff but here to try to share and talk and try to figure it all out? And you guys, at your age, you're just beginning that process of trying to put those pieces together. How do I take care of myself? How do I try to live this life well? And we hope in the end that in that tapestry of life, of all that variety that life brings us, because life is going to bring you fun and great experience and fun experiences that are going to show up on Facebook, by the way. But it's also going to bring you sorrow and sadness and loneliness and rejection and even times abandonment and hurt. It's going to bring all those things to you. That's all of it, you guys. We're going to get it all, okay? It's a tapestry that's woven together, right? And you're going to learn how, over time, to live in that and deal with that and make, hopefully, good choices and take care of yourself in a good way, okay? But this is the journey we're doing tonight, and especially we're talking about tonight, man, what does it mean to be living this life when often depression can come visit us, right? So we're going to try to go over that together tonight, okay? So take a look at these pictures. What does depression look like? We usually think depression looks like this. So we think it's pretty obvious, right? Man, you're depressed. Man, you're down. You're crying all the time. Man, you just, can't get off the couch. You're suicidal. Man, we think depression is these really extreme forms. But take a look at this clip and see how people describe this a little bit, a little more nuanced. So these guys are talking about sometimes it can look so good on the outside, right? You guys all look good, by the way, okay? You look great, okay? You look good. You look normal, okay? You guys all look normal. You all can take a good selfie and you can post it and look fine, okay? It makes someone else jealous, by the way, okay? You can do that, okay? Does that mean you're all good and all fine inside? No, right? Many times what depression looks like and can look like is someone smiling on the outside, but man, they're struggling on the inside. It can look like coming back from a party and everything looks all fun, but you can't, at 2 a.m. you wake up and you're assaulted with guilt and struggles and issues. It can look like, man, having too many drinks, smoking weed. It can look like hooking up. It can look like cutting. It can look like all sorts of other things that really are the expressions and sort of the surface of stuff that's underneath, right? There's things underneath. It's like you're in the pool, and in the pool they give you this, ball, and you're trying to push the ball into the water, right? Okay, and you're holding this ball into the water, okay? And you're trying to look normal up top, okay? So they don't know you have the ball into the water, right? And you all know, right? It's hard to do that, isn't it? Because the ball wants to do what? What's it want to do? It wants to shoot up, right? It wants to pop up. It doesn't want to stay under the water, right? And you keep it down there, and after a while, you keep doing that, you're going to look really silly, and the ball's going to eventually come up. That's what it's like sometimes pushing all these feelings down and pushing this depression and anxiety. It's like trying to do life, keeping everything under the water. And it can look okay outside. You can look normal. You can look good. But then you got to go home with yourself. You got to look at yourself. Ultimately, we all sleep alone with ourselves, and we got to learn how to live in our own skin. Okay? And often the emotion is bigger than the fact. The emotion can take over. Now, let's talk about, though, some specifics of depression. Depression, one thing we think about depression is sort of the opposite of happiness, right? Depression is the opposite of joy. I don't have joy, I must be depressed. I'm not happy, that's depression. And really, that's not ultimately what depression is. Depression, the opposite of depression isn't lack of joy or lack of happiness, it's lack of vitality. It's the lack of feeling alive, okay? It's the lack of this sense of vitality and abundance. So Jesus said, hey, I came to bring you life and that abundantly, okay? He didn't say I just came to bring you life and one continuous Disneyland trip. He didn't say that. He didn't say I came to give you life and one constant nirvana peace that you can just sit on top of the mountaintop and you're going to have peace forever. He didn't say that at all. He said, I came to bring you abundant, full life. Okay? And that means I get to experience all of it. But when you're depressed, all that life, all that ups and downs, all that variety, all that color of life gets sort of fogged over into gray. Life just starts to lose its color. It's sort of black and white. It's gray. It's like a mist, that's there. And so the first thing we look for depression is someone that is having a hard time enjoying life. Things they used to enjoy doing, man, it just feels like too much work. I'm in there, I'm sort of faking it. I'm trying to place a smile on my face. But man, it just takes a lot of energy. I feel tired all the time. I'm exhausted. I don't feel anything I look forward to, right? I'm sort of walking through quicksand in a way. This is what we think often the first thing. We don't ask people to say, well, do you feel sad? Okay? What I ask them is, hey, do you sort of feel like you just don't have energy anymore? Do you feel like you have a hard time enjoying things you used to enjoy? Do you have anything that you look forward to, right? You have a positive expectation and hope for. And people will say, man, I don't know. I just feel like I'm just sort of sleepwalking through life, right? So we look at that. Then I ask them, hey, how are you sleeping? What's going on? Okay? And most times they're going to say, man, I have a hard time going to sleep at night. Man, my sleep is all over the map. Or they say, yeah, I can go to sleep, but every night, 2 a.m., my internal alarm clock goes off. I cannot get back to sleep. My brain turns on, and I can't get back to sleep, and now I'm wandering the hallways. I'm like a ghost at my house, right? I'm like the living dead walking around my house, right? Sleep is really bad. Now, once in a while, someone will say, man, I just want to sleep all the time. And they're sleeping 9.5, sometimes 10 hours. And do you think they feel rested when they get up? They feel exhausted. They got 10 hours sleep, they wake up and they're exhausted, right? The sleep's not helping them anymore. Their sleep's all whacked out, okay? Then I ask them, what about your appetite? And sometimes they say, man, and most times they say, man, I don't have an appetite. I just feel a little queasy, feel a little sick, right? This is the depression diet, by the way, okay? Some people like this symptom, but they can lose weight, okay? Because they're just losing appetite. Think of it, the vitality, right? Feeling alive, right? And part of a life and being alive is I have appetites, right? I look forward to, man, that pasta really would taste good. And a depressed person eats the pasta, and how does it taste? How does that pasta taste? Just blah, right? They used to really like this, right? It's really good, They have the hamburger, right? They start to not enjoy it anymore, right? So all of a sudden this ability to enjoy life. And some people, they go the other way, and man, they can eat everything around them. They're just chug-a-lugging because they can't get enough, and they're trying to fill the hole in their soul, and they're gaining weight, which makes them more depressed, right? Especially if it's a woman. If you're a woman and you're gaining weight, do you think that doesn't make you more depressed, right? So on top of this depression grabbing them, they do things that make them depressed. Well, what else do people do when they're depressed? Okay? They have a hard time getting going. Okay? Depression is worse in the morning. First wake up, man, sometimes people is like trying to clean my head out is so hard to get going, right? I'm just moving through. And then it's really bad at night. So sometimes that, we can see when that depression's coming and going for them, okay? And some people, it just stays all day, but a lot of us, it can be a morning, night kind of thing, okay? There's also this sense of emptiness, okay? And there's a sense of gnawing. It's like a worm in my soul. There's this gnawing sense that something's wrong, not just with my life, but something's wrong with me, right? Something's wrong with me. They have these voices in their head. They're conscious and sometimes they're unconscious. And what do the voices say to them? What do the depressive voices say to them? There's something wrong with you. It's really never going to get better. You really don't belong. It's just deep inside, you're not going to really find that good relationship that's going to work for you, okay? Just give up, There's these sort of voices. Now, we call this the shitty committee. This is the shitty committee, okay? People don't like me saying that in church, but I think that's the best term. Okay, so we're going to practice this in church. I want you to look to your friend next to you, and I want you to say, I have a shitty committee. Say it to each other. All right. You all have your shitty committee. You all have these voices that whisper to you, that talk to you. You talk to yourself all the time, don't you? You know this. You are constantly talking to yourself. You're constantly telling and giving a running commentary, whether it's conscious or not. Most times it's not even conscious, but you're getting a running commentary about your life. It's like those movies, you get the movies and you see the director's cut, and they do the voiceover, and they're talking, they have a director or maybe one of the actors there, and they talk about the movie while you're watching the movie. It is the most annoying way to watch a movie, by the way. I guess unless you're like a film student, it is the most annoying way. But these guys are talking about the movie, and the cuts, and why they did this, and why they chose that, and blah, 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 right? You have a director in your head talking and commentating on your life all the time. Always going on. And do you think that voice is always really kind and balanced and even and fair? You think it is? Oh no, not at all, okay? And you guys, that voice will tell you things and will convince you of things and will color things that will change how you even experience life, okay? So someone's depressed, and they used to have, let's say, they have experience they enjoy, and maybe in my world, their spouse will say, well, come on, let's go out with, Jerry and Sally, and we really enjoy them, they'll help you, right? Okay, they go to dinner, and they have this dinner, and they leave the dinner. This guy likes Jerry and Sally, okay? And they get home, and the wife says, hey, Dad, is that help? Is that good? And she thought, it was a great dinner. Man, it was great, just like normal. We laughed, we had enjoyed them. And he'll say, no, I just felt like it was a bummer. I just felt like I was a stick in the mud. It's better if you went without me. They'll say something like this, right? Okay. 2 people go to that dinner, and 2 people have a different way of viewing that experience. And he's looking at that experience through this lens of depression. That's what depression does. It lies to us. It tells us things about ourselves, that shitty committee. And I wish we could pop that cassette out of your head, that shitty committee. I wish you could scan this thing and erase the hard drive, but it's not the way it happens. It's a journey. When the Bible says, therefore be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? That transformed is being transformed, the journey of being transformed. So contending and working with that. Okay, also in depression, you tend to isolate yourself. So you start finding yourself retreating and isolating, shutting down, spending more time vegging out. So you're watching YouTubes all day long, over and over and over again, right? You're isolating away. And depression can sort of cause that sense of being isolated, being shut down. So this is really crappy, isn't it? This is just not a good feeling, okay? It's really hard to have this. Yeah, I got some bad news for you. Your generation has succeeded at one good thing, or one thing well, I should say, and not a good thing. Your generation now has a higher rate of depression than any generation before you. There you go, you did something, okay? Your generation experiences depression at a higher rate and earlier than any previous generation. Why in the world is that? Because the reality is you actually have more available to you than any previous generation, okay? You have more materially, you have more opportunity, okay? And yet you have higher rates of depression. Why in the world is that? What's going on, right? What's happening? Now, we could guess at a few things, okay? What's going on? You guys could tell me your stresses, okay? Is life stressful? Okay? Does it feel stressful? What's stressful about life? Trying to pay for school, trying to deal with relationships, trying to deal with maybe school debt that I've had, trying to deal with my parents that are nuts half the time or not together, right? Try to deal with siblings that are, drive me nuts. Try to deal with my own behavior and things that I've done that I feel really freaking guilty about. And that voice, that shitty committee that tells me every night about my guilt, right? Also, your generation has seen too much, right? Do you believe in government, guys? Do you believe in government? No, you do not believe in government. Okay? You are disillusioned. You've heard it all. You've seen it all. You know that the great Oz is not the great Oz. He's just a little frumpy fat man behind the screen. That's what you know. Now, when I grew up, we did not know that. We sort of were naive to a lot of things. We thought things sort of worked pretty well. Government was decent and they cared for us. Family was pretty decent and okay. Your generation, you don't believe it anymore. Do you think you believe in family, guys? Do you believe in marriage? No. Your generation does not. You wait longer to get married. You now wait the longest of any generation to ever get married. And your generation lives together at a higher rate. Why do people live together and not get married? Because they don't believe in marriage. It's just a piece of paper, right? This is that sense of disillusionment. It's like, God, what's life all about? The things that we used to take for granted that sort of helped us feel like our place in the world, feel okay, we don't feel it anymore. So you guys are in this incredible pressure cooker of trying to deal with life into an age where there's all sorts of things. Now, we're going to talk about this more in a moment, but the third thing that is the worst, you are exposed through social media to the whole world. Whole world. You're exposed to stuff all the time, okay? And you are constantly being barraged with images and information, things that you now get posted, right? Thrown in front of your face, okay? That are so hard to get away from. So we live in this period of time that's so hard to try to find some sense of joy and live this life. Live in your own skin, basically. I like this quote. It's in your handout. It says this: "We were never designed for the sedentary, indoor, sleep-deprived, socially isolated, fast food-laden, frenetic pace of modern life." We live in a life now that you're trying to drink off the fire hose of life. And it's coming at you all the time. And you don't realize it, but it's hard to handle all that. There we go. Now, we got a really great illustration in the Bible of someone who's depressed, okay? We got a great story, and I'm going to tell it to you, but I want you to listen to the story and listen to some of the signs of depression. So the story of in the Bible that's sort of the common one we talk about is the prophet Elijah. Now, Elijah lived somewhere about 800 BC, way back in the day. He was a prophet, and during his time, he lived in the time when Israel, the nation of Israel, was divided. There's two states, basically. There's Israel up north and Judah down south. This is after King David and Solomon, after the glory years of Israel, when they were really on top of the heap. And after they passed the scene, things started happening, and the nation divided, and each nation had their own king there, and they were sort of struggling. And because they were struggling, they made alliances with other political parties and nations around them. They started getting cross-infected with all this stuff. So the book in the Bible, in the books of 1st and 2nd Kings, there's this chronicle of all these different kings in both Israel and Judah. Of good kings, there's a few of them. Okay, the good kings, it'll say something like that: he did well and he followed the Lord all his days of his being a king, right? And then most of them were not good kings. They were crappy kings. They were kings that to survive, they had to make alliances, and to survive, they appealed to other gods. Okay, so up in the northern nation of Israel, around there were the Canaanites. So that's another tribe. The Canaanites had another god called Baal, or Baal, B-A-A-L. Okay, this is his king. And these people, like we often do when they start interchanging with each other, they start adopting some of those practices. So these kings started bringing this other god into their life. They started setting up temples and altars. They have other priests around. And so it's just been a bad time. And it gets so bad that they're not only doing that, but they're killing off Yahweh's priest. They're hunting down the other priest, and they're knocking them off, basically. Okay? So this is the story. This is what's going on. Up north, there's this king. His name is Ahab, and his wife is Jezebel. Okay? So you've got these two people. Ahab's really a rat, and his wife Jezebel is a witch. She's really rough. And they are totally into this other religion. And Elijah's around, and God says to Elijah, hey, Elijah, it's time. I want you to go now, and I want you to go confront them. So Elijah's, okay, here I go. He goes over, he meets with me, he says, okay, I'm going to do a contest. I want you to get all the priests of Baal. I want you to bring them over here. We're going to get all the people of Israel that we can get, gather them all around, and we're going to have a little bit of a showdown. It's a smackdown, basically, that they're doing, okay? And we're going to have like a cook-off. So they get them together, and he says this, okay, we're going to find out who is the real God, right? Who's the real God, Baal or Yahweh? Okay, which one is it? And they say, okay, well, let's do this. We'll get 2 calves, and we're going to do a sacrifice. And he says, you take one of them. Hey, you guys, he said, you guys pick the calf. Whatever one you want, you pick up. Go ahead. They pick them. They slaughter it. They put all this firewood out there, and they put this calf on there. And he says, now, if your God is God, pray. Let him ignite this fire, cook this offering, and we know that he's really the God, right? So they put this up there. They do all this stuff. They're singing, dancing, chanting, running around. They're actually cutting themselves. That's part of their religion. And you know what happened? Nothing. So they're like, it's awful, okay? Elijah says, okay, let's come on over. Let's do mine. He says, he stacks some rocks there. He says, okay, let's put the offering on top. He says, listen, let's just up the ante a little bit here, right? So he's sort of showboating this thing a little bit. He says, bring some water. Dump a bunch of water on here. They dump some water. Hey, bring some more. Bring some more. They dump all this water. It's all around him. There's a big, huge trough around it. He prays to Yahweh, and guess what happens? Boom. So this is the, ultimate chef. It ignites it. Everybody cheers, and they say, of course, now Yahweh's the true king, the true God. And so and Elijah says, okay, now take all those priests, 850 of them, okay, take them into the valley and kill them. So Old Testament's pretty bloody. They kill them all, right? Is this a really great day for Elijah? Wow, this is like a great day. This is a mountaintop experience, okay? Until the next day, Jezebel hears the story. And Jezebel says, what the heck, you killed my priest? And she says, I better die if tomorrow I don't kill you, Elijah. So she now sets off her posse to go get Elijah, basically, right? Elijah hears about this. He books it out of there. He takes him, a little assistant, him and his assistant, run all the way from Israel, all the way down, and they're racing down to get away from Dodge, get out of town, so he cannot be killed, right? Gets down to the bottom. Remember, this is like desert, you guys. This is like, one big stone pile there. He sets his assistant, and he says, you stay here, and he goes another day, further down into the desert. He is totally alone. He sits down under a tree, and he says, I am all alone. He now feels like, you know what, I am totally alone. Oh my gosh, this is just awful. This is just a big failure. He says, God, take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. He's sitting under a tree. He's having a little pity party, right? Because they're going to come kill me, right? He says, I am the only one left. Okay, and now, man, they're out to get me. Wow, this is my little reward for doing this thing, right? So Elijah finally falls asleep. He's exhausted, right? Remember, they've been traveling all the way down here, right, trying to get away. He's totally bummed out. He's sleeping there. And an angel appears to him, shakes him. Hey, Elijah, wake up. What? He says, get up, come on. Here's some food and water. Eat and drink. Eats a little bit, falls back asleep. Angel wakes him. Elijah, come on, wake up, man. Hey, here's some more food and water. Eat, get some food in you, okay? And then he says, now I want you to go over this other area, and here's a cave I want you to be at. Go hang out there for a little while, okay? Elijah goes over there. Some days later, voice comes to him and says, okay, I want you to go out to the mouth of the cave, okay? Because God comes to him and says, hey, Elijah, what's going on, man? What's happening? And Elijah, like normal, says, wah. I just feel awful. This is awful. They're out to get me. Look at this great thing. Nobody's here anymore. I'm the only one left. His shitty committee is going, right? Okay? So God listens to him, and then God says, hey, go stand at the cave entrance. He stands at the cave, And the Bible says, well, at first, there's a big wind goes by, then an earthquake, and then a big fire. All these big dramatic things happen, but it says in each one of those, God was not there. And then it says a gentle voice, a soft wind, okay? This really soft voice comes up, and it begins to speak into his ear something different, right? Something different to help him start to see his purpose again and to see life again. And it then starts to encourage him, hey, man, get out of the cave. It's time to go. There's other things to go do. Elijah, now. And then Elijah sets off and goes, and he starts to do his ministry again. And by the way, he finds out that there are other people out there. He wasn't alone that he thought he was, right? So this guy, who I think probably, I like to think that he went on his way and he still struggled with depression. That's what I like to think. That's what I think. I think Elijah was sort of a depressive kind of guy. He still had to deal with it. That's what I think, okay? But he still went and did his thing, right? So he went from this, I'm all alone, God, they're out to get me, and I just want to die. Take my life, please, to going back into his life, right, to struggle. So let's look and see what we see in here. Okay, what are some of the lessons? What are the factors of Elijah? Number one is fear. Often in depression, there's fear. Elijah was scared, right? He was fearful for his life. It was really scary for him. They're going to kill me. It's being killed scary? Yeah, I think so, and I totally get that, So, I would be scared too. Second one is failure. Elijah had a sense that there's this shitty committee, that there's this negative opinion about himself, okay? He didn't think he was successful. He didn't think that he made a difference, right? I did this thing, but it really didn't make a difference. He couldn't see beyond his fear and his hurt and his sense of failure. He just couldn't see that. He's like looking at, depression's like this. Depression's like looking at life through a keyhole. You can't see all this. You just see this little keyhole, and it just presses in on you. And he was feeling that. Third, Elijah has fatigue. He is seriously tired and exhausted. He lays down and he just falls asleep. He can't keep himself awake, right? Probably wasn't eating. That's why they brought food and water to him, okay? And we know depression has a very strong physiological component to it, okay? How you take care of your body is really important, and Elijah wasn't taking care of himself. Last one, Elijah had a sense of futility. He didn't believe there was hope. He thought, it's over, and he felt really futile. I'm the only one left, and they're out to get me, right? I can't see anything more, any hope beyond this thing. And we could see all four of those things often in depression, right? It's just down there, gnawing at us. All right, so what are the lessons we can get from this? What are some things, okay? Number one, depression can happen even when things look good. Like we looked at the pictures, most times depression is not obvious, okay? Most times you would look at people and you wouldn't necessarily know it, okay? I look at this room, in this room, I'll guarantee you, there's someone many of us struggle with depression. Many of us struggle with some anxiety, struggle with some of the guilt, struggle with some challenging issues in our own heart and relationships. Okay, it's all here. In fact, probably all of us have some degree of that, right? And even when things can look good outside, it cannot necessarily match what's inside. And so depression can come often when things seem okay. Elijah had all these great successes, all this great stuff, but inside he knew that it wasn't doing well. We know that from a mountaintop, to get to the next mountaintop, you have to go through the valley, right? We don't go from mountaintop to mountaintop in life. That's not how it happens. You don't just jump from mountaintop to mountaintop. Not my life. My life is sort of going through all of it, okay? And those very often when things are exciting and big deals, we can sort of feel that letdown that can happen. Now, that's one thing that happens. We can see that things, even when they look good, cannot be so good. Secondly, when we're depressed, we have a tendency to isolate ourselves. So it said, then he went out and alone, it says. He went out alone into the wilderness, and he sat under this tree, right? He's just sitting there, his head between his knees. We tend to isolate, which is probably the worst thing you can do for yourself, okay? It takes too much energy to be with people when you're depressed, okay? Third, when we're depressed, the depression lies to us. It distorts us. Do you know that you can be alone when you're with people? You know, you can be in a crowd, you can be with people, you can be here tonight, and you can be alone. You can feel lonely. Okay? What's more lonely, group? To be alone and alone, or to be with people and be alone? What do you think feels more lonely? Be with people and be alone. Absolutely. Okay? That's why a lot of people say, I'm with this group, but I just feel like I don't connect, I don't belong, there's something different, I feel uncomfortable, a little awkward, it just feels isolating. So I can be with people, I can be around all that, doing that, and there's some sense of isolation. And part of it is this: I'm living this outside life, but I know that there's an inside life that I don't know how to live with anybody else. Nobody lives on the inside with me. I'm not sharing that inside part of me. So I live just with me in my head. I live in that isolation. There's lies that come to me, distorted. Now, here's why this is so hard for you guys. Let's go back to social media. I want you to think about how humans are wired, okay? What did it say in the Bible when Adam, all the animals, and Adam said, man, God, great, but there's something missing, right? And it said, for it's not good for man to be alone, right? Okay. God created us as social beings. We're social creatures, okay? We're created for a relationship, okay? We need relationship. That means when we're in relationship, when we're in a group, we have a part of our brain that is constantly evaluating how we're doing socially, where we stack up, what we're doing. We call it social appraisal system. You are constantly, unconsciously evaluating where you are. You don't know this, but you're doing it all the time. You're constantly doing it. I do it too, okay? And this appraisal system is a way we get to know, is it safe? Where do I fit? What's going on here? Who's my friend and my ally, and who's my enemy and at risk, right? Listen, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, that's a pretty good thing to know, right? You meet some stranger, you got to know where you fit. You're in your clan group, you need to know where you fit also, right? So let's take up to about World War I, about 1914, 1917, up to about that time. If you lived somewhere, you lived and died, most people, within about 30 to 50 miles of where you were born, okay? You were born somewhere, you basically lived your whole life within about 30 to 50 miles, okay? How many people did you know back then, 1,000 years ago, within that 30-mile radius? You may know a couple hundred people, okay? How big was your village? Pretty small, It's probably a collection, but most people lived in farms. Do you think people were different than you? Did you have a whole bunch of different types of people around you? No. Everybody's like you. Almost everybody. Everybody had the same house. Everybody wore the same clothes. Same crappy clothes, by the way. Okay, we have a lot better clothes than they did. Okay? They had, relatively the same standard of living. They're all the same. They all looked like us, right? Okay. How many people do you know? How many people do you relate to on a normal basis? Thousands of people. Thousands of people you're exposed to. Thousands. Now, where are you exposed to the most people? Where do you guys think you're exposed to the most people? Online. Online. Apps, Facebook, Snapchat, all these ones. You are exposed to the whole world. And is it within a 30-mile radius of you? How far away can you get feeds to your Facebook? All around the world. You're now living your life reference to the whole frickin' world. Think about this, right? Think about how hard this is. Do you think you're wired to be able to do that and handle that? The answer is no, okay? You are not wired to handle that, right? None of us are. So I get all this stuff now going on. That's like when I grew up, we didn't have any of this stuff. But in the 70s, the show that came out was called The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. So this guy had this show, and they had this, he would go and visit. It's sort of like what's that one they do with the crib, Pimp My Crib or something like that, right? The shows, right? They go show off their houses, right? Okay? So they had this show. So they'd go, we never saw this stuff. They would go to some mansion and some celebrity, and they'd show their house. Okay. It's quite fascinating. Do you think that made us all feel better about ourselves? To see how some movie star Brad Pitt's living kind of thing? I think it really helped us, know what really cool car that this person has, right? So this Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, that's about it. And it was like a half-hour show a week. Okay? Once a week, if you chose to, you watch the show half hour. How often do you guys get to watch the show of other people's lives? All the time. Do you know how many YouTubes are uploaded every day to YouTube? It's incredible. It's millions of them, right? You get exposed to all this stuff, and you're not wired to handle it. You have all exposure. So now I'm trying to figure out how to keep myself feeling decent, but I have all this information. I got this fire hose going, and we can't shut off that social appraisal system. It doesn't work that way, okay? So they took a series of students, did a study, and they had them all these major social apps, and they had some groups that all of them used social apps, and they gave them a depression inventory. And then they had one group stay normal, just use your apps the way you normally do. Second group, we want you to now to limit your app exposure to about 2/3 of what you used to do. Another one, about 1/3 of what you used to do, okay? And then 6 weeks later, they retest them. Where's your depression? Next, you did anxiety too, your depression and anxiety, okay? Okay, normal group, they stay with the social media, the normal time that they're viewing social media, okay, did it all. Did their depression, anxiety change at all? No, basically the same, okay? Okay, group that went down 1/3. Now they're doing 2/3 of social media that they did before. How much did their depression and anxiety go down? 1/3. Next group, they go down 2/3. They go down to 1/3 of what they were doing before. How much down does their depression and anxiety go down? Goes way down, goes way down, okay? So what they're seeing is they start to see that there's now not just an association, a correlation between social media and depression, there's now a causal relationship between them. It's causal, okay? It is really strong, okay? It's a huge factor that now assaults you with all this stuff. I know there's other things going on, I get it, okay? But I want you to know, when you feel isolated, you're now with all this world out there that you get exposed to, and your system can't handle it. Now, are any of you allergic to like peanuts or, I don't know, fish or whatever? There'll be allergies, right? Okay, when you eat something that you're allergic to, what's your body do? It blows up, you can't breathe, your fingers get that, you're like, all this stuff happens, your eyes are watering, running, or whatever. I did this last night, actually, it's funny. Jane, my wife, bought some cherries. And generally, I gotta be careful with cherries, but I thought, I want something to eat. I grabbed some cherries. About 5 cherries into it, I'm sneezing and sneezing and sneezing. My throat is all scratchy and stuff, right? Because I'm allergic to cherries, right? But I want my cherries, right? Okay? And my body is telling me, Jim, don't eat cherries. Thank you. It is telling me, stop it. I'm warning you. This is not good for you, right? Okay? And some of you got other allergies, right? I'm telling you right now, we are allergic to this modern life we live. We're allergic to it. We're allergic to social media. We're allergic to a sedate life or isolated life, or we're too busy or not getting enough sleep. We're allergic to it. How does our body, how does our spirit, how does our soul tell us that we're allergic to it? How does it warn us? We get depressed. We get anxious. We get sad. It's warning us. Beep, 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 beep. The warning's going off. It's a way that God built into our lives to tell us how to take care of ourselves, right? So about 5 cherries into it, okay, my body's doing its thing, and I'm trying to be healthy, so I decide to do what? What did I do? I stopped eating the cherries, right? Which I'm sort of sad because I like cherries, but I can't eat cherries, right? Okay? Your life's the same way. When you start to get into things that are not good for you, your body will tell you, your heart, your soul will tell you there's something wrong. The warnings go off, right? It's like when you drive, if you're on the road, and you start to veer a little bit, what is on the road to tell you that you're going off course? What do you hit? We call these speed bumps, right? We call those little things on the lane. If you go past those, if you blow past those little bumps, what do you hit next? Now they have some other bumps. They have these little things right on the very edge that really, right? Those things are really serious. It's like, whoa, you know. Whenever I drive, by the way, Jade instantly falls asleep. And if I ever hit those bumps, she's like, whoa, what happened? And the bumps are there to tell you to do what? Get back. Well, if I blow past that, what do I hit next? I hit the gravel, I hit the fence, I hit the weeds, I hit these rocks, right? And if I keep going, I'm going off the edge, right? Okay. All those things are there to tell me to get back on the, thank you, road. Okay. Your body does the same thing. God gave you all these experiences, these feelings to help you take care of yourself. It's how you take care of that, right? So when I'm feeling lonely or sad or even depressed or anxious, these are things that are like warning systems to tell me to take care of myself, right? Do we listen to those warning systems? No. You know what we do? We watch more videos. That's what we do. That's what we do. We isolate ourselves. We eat crap. We don't sleep enough. That's what we do. So then what do we hit next? We hit more speed bumps, right? We're in the weeds, right? We keep going, right? So what we're learning to do is, man, when we're depressed or we feel these feelings, we're trying to stay in the lanes, basically. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Is that easy to do, you guys? No. It's very hard to do, okay? Because we're pulled off course all the time. There's things that pull us. Do you guys eat the cherries sometimes? Yeah. Will I eat cherries in the future, you guys? Yes, I'm sure it's going to happen. We do things that we should not do because that's who we are, right? Paul said this, I do that which I should not do. We struggle with it. Okay. The lies that become part of us is a big part of depression. Now, depression, it can be physical. There's physical sides. Some of you are more vulnerable because of your DNA. There's a very strong genetic component to depression. And so if you have a parent who's depressed, relatives that are depressed, you probably have more vulnerability to it. You got to just take care of yourself. Okay? Some of you have vulnerability to alcoholism. Some of you have vulnerability to anxiety. Some of you have vulnerability to anger. It's DNA. So the moral of this story is pick your parents very carefully. Okay? And some of you did not do a good job picking your parents. Okay? You could, I guess, blame them if you want to, but they got it from somewhere too, right? It keeps going all the way back. But this is very strong. You know, this it can be genetic, but it also is how I deal with my emotions and feelings, how I deal with my head, the lies in my head, right? Okay? So the Bible also says, take captive every thought. And when we're depressed, that's certainly sometimes we have to try to chase those down, and those are very hard to do. All right, what else does this story tells us? Okay? What number are we on, by the way? I'll make sure I don't skip. Okay, number 4. It's good to take a break. It's good to take a break. So when the angel woke up Elijah, gave him some food, sent him off to the cave, and he was there for, I think, about 30 days. Sometimes you need to take a break. Sometimes you can't go full throttle through life. You just can't push because you're going to pay for it somewhere, okay? You cannot live on 5.5 hours sleep doing Red Bulls. It's not going to happen, you guys. Okay? You think you're going to get away for it? You think you could rob Peter to pay Paul? I'm going to tell you right now, Peter wants to be paid back. And he's going to get you, and he's going to make you pay it back through depression, through other things in your life, right? So smart people are able to listen and try to take care of themselves, okay? But sometimes you need the break, okay? So sometimes you need to be able to take care of your physical self, get a little break, okay? But number 5, but it's also good to get up and get going. Get out of your cave. You got to get moving sometimes. So sometimes what we do with depression is we really push people to physically get moving, to act their way out of depression. So they say 2 of the things you could do, best things you could do for your depression: sing and dance. Okay? 2 things. So play music, but you got to sing along, okay? And go to Zumba. Okay, guys, go to Zumba. I used to go to Zumba. I am a really bad dancer, really sad. I'd hide out in the dark corner of the Zumba class and just go get moving. Because your body is designed to move. We're body, soul, spirit. They all interact with each other, right? So getting up and getting going is really important. That's why he eventually said, Elijah, you got to get going, man. We're not going to just sit here all forever. You can't just sit here. You got to get moving, right? So sometimes when you want to isolate, you need to be moving. You need to get physical. And sometimes, you guys, I'll tell people, you know, I'm not sure you could just make yourself not be depressed, but you can clean your pantry. Yeah, you can do that. Okay, you can clean your car. Okay, go do that. And maybe over time that'll help you a little bit. Because when you're depressed, I mean, remember, everything gets depressed. You slow down, get moving. Now, also, well, they say the number one way to prolong a low season is to stay down. Okay? You got to get up. You got to get moving in a way. Okay? And Elijah, they had to get him moving. Okay. Number 6. Sometimes we need to talk it all out. Now, it's interesting to the story. God comes to Elijah and he says, Elijah, what's going on? Why are you here? Okay, he asked Elijah a question. Did you notice this in the Bible? God asks people questions that are obvious and that he knows the answer to. You know that happens? Hey, Adam, where are you? Right? Adam's like behind the leaf tree over there, right? Hiding out. You got to know where Adam was? Come on, yes, He said, hey, Abel, or Cain, where's your brother Abel? Do you think he didn't know what happened? Right? God asked the question, okay? He allows Elijah to talk for a little while. He allows him to sort of offload, to share. This is what I'm feeling, and they're after me, they're hurting me, I'm struggling, okay? He just lets it get off his chest, okay? So I want you to think of your feelings. They're both a tool. God gave you feelings, okay? Is it good to feel pain, by the way? Is it good to feel pain? Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes, while we're all here talking, because I'm talking a long time, you guys are shifting in your seats. You don't realize it, but you're moving, okay? Why are you moving in your seat? Why are you adjusting yourself? Because you get a little sore, right? You get a little, move over, okay? If you didn't have little nerves in your butt, would you move? No, you just sit there. And you know what would happen? You'd get sores and you'd get some problems. So you just shift a little bit, right? You take care of yourself. Your pain is a way to take care of yourself. It's a gift, right? Can depression be a gift? Yeah. Pain can be a gift. Anxiety can be a gift sometimes, okay? It can be helpful sometimes. Learning how to take care of yourself. But those feelings that you get are like in a pressure cooker. These old pressure cookers, you put stuff in, you lock it all down, they heat some stuff up, okay? What does the pressure cooker have on top of it so that that thing does not explode and kill you? Do you know what it is? It's called a release valve, right? Okay, what is that thing supposed to do? What's a release valve do? It releases pressure. Thank you very much, right? So it's designed at a certain pressure, it releases it, so it comes off, because otherwise the thing's gonna blow up, okay? Do you know that you're all are pressure cookers? All of you. You are pressure cookers. Things happen, life goes on, good, bad, otherwise, all this stuff happens. And for some of us, real difficult things happen. Trauma happens, difficult things happen. All those get thrown in there, temperatures turned up, hotter, okay? What happens if you don't have a release valve? You're going to explode. Thank you. Well, how do you explode? You may start drinking the 6-pack. You may be smoking weed every night. You may be, doing some stuff that you feel really, really bad about, right? It's coming out, but it's coming out in unhealthy ways. So learning to let it out other ways. Well, how do you let it out? Well, exercise is helpful. Sometimes tears can be really a gift from God to release some of that stuff. And also just having a place to share, to talk, to let out some of this stuff from that's inside of you can be really, really helpful. To be able to have a person, a place to share, to be able to voice it, right? And I'm telling you, as a guy, this is much harder for us guys to do. Seriously. Gals, that half the time we have no idea what's going on inside of us, right? We don't, and even if we do, we are not usually normally sharing this stuff, right? This is not a guy thing. But learning how to let it out, learning how to share it, learning how to let people in is really, really important. And it takes vulnerability, but it takes also, the thing that's going to solve your aloneness is to let people into your aloneness, okay? It's letting people know you, having safe places to share. And unfortunately, many times it's hard to do it at a setting like this, where everybody looks really good, and we all are, supposed to be happy all the time, and sometimes we can't share it. So this is where people go like to 12-step programs and support groups or therapists. They're going other places to share it, okay? Now, the last thing that tells us here, goes along with this, is it's really, really good to have an angel, okay? It's good. When you're depressed, it's good to have an angel. The angel comes to him. The angel does what? The first thing the angel does is hey, let's take care of, your needs here. Why don't you eat a little bit? The angel does not berate him, doesn't get on his case, doesn't challenge all his shitty committee stuff, right? Doesn't shame it. Says, hey, just, here, eat a little bit, okay? That's what happens. Sometimes all of us need an angel, and all of us can be an angel to somebody else. When we're depressed, we need places to share. This is where your life group comes in, your close support system. It's really hard because many of us don't have it. Do you know that since 1985, the number of Americans without a close friend tripled? Tripled, okay? Half of Americans report they do not have one close friend. Half Americans. Wow, that is incredible. So we have 1 million people around us and we're 1 million strangers to each other, right? Who would I go in time of need? Who do I look for comfort? Who do I share with? Half of people say they would have a very, very hard time coming up with that a name for somebody to do that with, okay? And you guys can be partly you can be that for somebody else also, to be that angel for somebody. You don't have to be a therapist to have a therapeutic conversation. It's just shared life. That's what it is. It's just being a good friend, shared with each other. And it's acknowledging that we all live in this together. We all struggle with this together. Now, you guys know FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, right? That's a new disease that we have. It's very funny. I just heard that Snapchat, I think it is now rechanging their algorithms so that they limit how the likes show up. Have you read about this? They're changing how you do likes. So they realize that they have weaponized the social media because people are addicted to likes and all these things, right? To have shares if it's shared on. And so they're actually now changing what you can see of other people's likes, okay? Because it feeds this fear of missing out, FOMO, okay? So they say you're supposed to go from FOMO to JOMO, which is joy of missing out, okay? So learning to say, well, one, shut off the phone, go on a fast, right? Challenge yourself to fast from social media, fast from all that stuff, learn it. And GOMO, which is get out more often, okay? Get going, get to real people, real connections. Slow down on social media, be able to now take care of yourself and try to connect. Now, depression is a part of life. We all have these. It's not even that depression is an awful thing. Sometimes it's appropriate. Okay? All these feelings we have this rich tapestry of feelings. We're gifted this, you guys. We're gifted with all these feelings. And this tapestry that's woven together gives you the color, gives you the vibrancy. You can't have real joy without sadness. That doesn't work. You can't even have peace without anxiety. They go together. They're part of what we experience in life. And if you're going to live life, you're going to experience it all. You're going to feel it. You're going to get hurt. You're going to feel rejected at times. And we're learning how to live it all. So your job from now on, from tonight on, the rest of your life, the job of your life is to learn how to live your life. That's it. You're learning how to live a good life. You're learning how to take care of yourself. You're learning how to listen to the speed bumps. You're learning how to say no to what you need to say no to, say yes to what you need to say yes to. This is all the way from what you put in your mouth to what you put in your brain, okay? Whether you make yourself go to bed. Because you're past the point where your parents are doing that for you. I hope your parents are not dressing you anymore or cutting your food up for you, okay? You get to do that. It's your task now to figure out how to take care of yourself. And everybody, that's going to be different, right? Each of you, it's going to be different of what your capacity is and what your need is. You have special, unique gifts and talents, some of you in capacities, and some of you have struggles and issues and thorns that you have to deal with also. All of us have those, right? The journey of life is how to live that together, how to live that well, how to get up. But it means you have to discipline yourself to be at that task together, that journey together, to grow and mature as you learn and get those people around you that help you do that. And in the end, the emotion doesn't have to define you. You can learn how to transcend, to be beyond that. You don't have to believe everything that you think.